Hi all, we're going to look at how Hope's Last Day, the core book module for Alien RPG, ended for Group 1. If you have not yet played Hope's Last Day and you intend to, or you're one of my players and you're going to, don't watch any more of this. This is super spoilerific. So you might have seen in the last video where I gave some indications about my approach to this as a module. Some of my ideas about how to run it, and there's just little moments, you know, some things that I'm very wary of not to tell the players too much and to keep the aliens as alien as possible from them. So to not necessarily explain all their attacks to the players, but you know, just like read it from the book, but explain it in a different way. To try and not necessarily explain the stress as it's read from the book, to not necessarily explain, oh well, aliens always have 2 initiatives, just let the fact that the aliens have another go hit them, and things like that. Or in case, you know, in the case of a scout, 3 initiative turns for 1 alien. So anyway, to quickly look at how the group went. It came in through the West Lock. I should say the personal agendas are really made there to conflict against each other. Specifically, the lab technician who wants to get a specimen of something. And there's a great opportunity later on in the lab for them to take an egg, a living egg, and, you know, they, you know, just sneak it away onto the ship. That's all they want to do. But there's other people that basically want to make the company pay. So, you know, you've got a problem like that within the group. But then you've also got the spy within the group as well, and the spy basically has a secret agenda of stopping any survivors or word of what's going on in this colony getting out, which logically means stopping the players escaping at any cost, even your own life. And that's how you score the story point. You see, winning isn't necessarily about getting away and surviving. Winning is about completing your agenda. So, for instance, when the heat got on, our synthetic player, Holroyd, the mechanic, his secret agenda is to help people live and escape and basically sacrifice yourself if need be. And he'd been damaged at the very kind of like end point where it was quick run for your life. We've got signals moving in on us from several positions at once. Run to the bloody ship. Now you've got the ID card. I'm skipping right to the end on this, but just to make the point about Holroyd. He's been damaged in such a way that his legs will not work anymore. So he's dragging himself along. And what he has to do is help the players get away. So he basically, you know, he grabs an alien, you know, grabs it by the tail, grabs it by the leg or whatever, holds it, grapples it from the floor, and he, you know, he's got super strength. He's like strength 7. Most things cap at, you know, whatever it is, 5 or 6 or whatever they cap at. So, you know, strength 7. That's crazy. So, you know, he's grabbing this alien and basically it's doing him in and putting him out of service so the other 4 can get away. But, you know, before it gets to that stage, you know, they're taking a look around. We get the jump scares building up, as I explained in the other video. We eventually get a face hugger attack them. We don't tell them it's a face hugger. We don't say, oh, you're being attacked by a face hugger. We don't do that. It's a spider looking sort of thing with like a long snake-like tail. It's a crazy looking, and, you know, it attacks and it does its thing with its 2 initiative turns. It's really fast and it's just horrible. It's great. You know, maybe they get to kill that, start to find some great weaponry, begin to upgrade. It's that what I call Resident Evil kind of style of gameplay, where you have to explore to get more good stuff, but the more you explore, the more risk you get into, because there are proper xenomorphs scattered in and around the place, and when they walk through, they can activate them. Now, my way of looking at how, you know, activating a xenomorph is that they don't usually just stand around in passages. And when they get to the CCTV feed, it's explained basically that you may see one of them standing around, whapping its tail this way and that way, kind of in the hallway. And to me, that doesn't feel right for a xenomorph. They'll usually be up in the structures, in a wall, on the ceiling, in something that they can that looks like their own secretions, that they can hide within, that looks like them. And they just kind of wait there, and then you normally kind of walk along, and that's when they will unwrap themselves and appear behind you. That tends to be how they operate. Not just you walk around a corner and you see one standing there. Brrr, this ain't Doom, or what have you. This is not Space Hulk. These are not Gene Stealers, but yeah. I mean, even that one, I wouldn't have it standing around. I'd probably have it moving, and quickly shift off and actually then activate once it's been looked at. Maybe that would be a fun thing, and actually start getting it moving around in unknown places. There's that kind of thing, if you want to be that extra bit harsh. But this thing's really, really harsh anyway, and it doesn't expect you to live, because in the canon, no one's meant to live, from this. And I did tell the players, no one's meant to live from this in the canon. No one actually survived this, as far as anyone's aware. Let's find out why that was and tell that story. That's what I told the players going in. Let's tell that story. And they're like, so they've got to get the ID card. So they've got to go deeper in to get the ID card to unlock the ship to get out. The way they got the comms coming from Billy's bar, from Wes, I think his name was, who's basically locked in Billy's bar, and he's got a drone scratching and beating on the door trying to get in, and the players were like, yeah, we're going to try and rescue you. So they run outside, out of the North Lock, and in doing so, activate the now stealthed alien that's up in the ceiling, like I was explaining. And I had to explain some of this stuff, that they see the secretions and they see the wire cabling and they see bullets and this kind of, because the book doesn't explain any of this, so I had to explain, there's the secretions. And if you explain these things, you also give your scientists there a chance to use their analyze ability on it, because it's a great opportunity to let them know more about the alien as a species, their characters, or players, if need be, if they don't know. But what the analyze talent also does from your scientist is it lets them de-stress. If it's successful, lets the group de-stress, basically. It's less frightening the more you know about the horror, the more you understand it. That's the theory here for the stress. And stress is a biggie. Stress will wipe you out. And when it gets too high, it will start to accumulate and spread to everyone else, and then they'll spread it back at you. And then everybody's stressed and panicking, and it will just go really bad fast. This game can get really, really bad really fast, suddenly, just like on the turn of a die. And I can tell you exactly what the moment was in our game when that happened. It was after Doc Kolinsky was found. Okay, so basically they had to get her ID card. They went to the lab. She's holed herself up there in the quarantine room. She's got the ID card round her neck. They get her out so they can get the ID card. They don't fully understand how the whole facehugger thing works, but she's been implanted. And she climbs down a service ladder. She is pretty much at the bottom, and she starts coughing and and struggling to breathe, and screaming in pain. And then she chest bursts, and this thing gets loose, and there's panic in a tight, cramped area, and the players get down, and this thing is just launched out. And one of the players tries to grab the ID from around her neck before it gets damaged, and basically the thing bites his hand and starts kind of like ravaging him, and it pulls it away, and he's panicking, and then someone else panics, and that's kind of this chain of events that set the panic off. Killing aliens usually isn't too bad if you've got good weaponry, and they start finding pulse rifles and stuff like that, and that can actually really do an alien in quite fast. And they did save the Wes from outside at Billy's bar. You know, they went outside, saw the drone comes at them, they all, you know, shoot it and take acid splash from, you know, engaging them really quickly. But yeah, they get it, they get it shot. They can kill it. Those weapons will kill it eventually, but it may not stay down because of the wonderful alien critical table that, you know, they can, you know, get up and start, like, have one more round against you or do something else awful, or it's just a range of nasty random signature stuff they can do, just like their attacks are signature attacks as well. And yeah, that was the moment really with the dog that everything just went really bad, because they'd got to Billy's bar and they pretty much all got rid of their stress by kicking back. They used the banter talent to basically lose even more stress, and then spent a turn losing even more stress. And they did all that, but it still wasn't enough, because even a lot of them from no stress, they suddenly gained loads of stress from the events that happen next, because they see a chest burster, so that's a new kind of thing, so it's an immediate panic check, and then the panic check, and then someone else is panicking, and then a few people are panicking, and then they may get given another criteria that makes them panic a second time from another thing, which then, if it's a lower thing, actually upgrades the existing one by one more, if you roll the lower result, if you've had a panic while you're panicking. And so that can actually then be worsened because there's a lot of stuff happening. Someone shoots the chest burster, it just acid sprays blood, acid blood everywhere. It's just really bad. You're seeing the way she's dying horrifically. It's super stressful. This thing, whatever the hell it is, people are freaking out. They're running for cover. They're shooting each other. They don't know what's going on. They can't see. Is that an alien? You know, they're armed. They're civilians. Pretty much all of these. And there was one great example when they saw the drone outside Billy's bar. You know, the pilot, who's not really a gunfighter at all, tried using the weapon and shooting it, and basically ended up with his shaky hands. It's -2 agility, and it's bang, 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 and a roll of 1. So basically discharged the entire clip in panic. You know, bang, 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 and because of the shaky hands, every single one of them misses, and all these shots have just gone all over. There's that click, 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 and it's like, you know, I'm explaining this to the player. This is what's happening. You're just freaking out, and you're like, you know, and now it's running at you, at the group, you know, horrible, just horrible things, proper survival horror, frightening. And yeah, you know, the doc getting chest bursted like that. I could have been mean and said, well, you know, yeah, the ID card, you didn't take it off her. You didn't say you were taking it off her. So she's still wearing it, and, you know, acid blood and brush, oh dear, you can't get in the ship. And that pretty much could have ended them narratively right there. But I didn't go that way. I said that it was just about intact. You hope that the chip would still be readable with the ship that's docked there. That's your only means of escape off this moon. And so that's the point, that just everybody went crazy, and someone else's panic makes everyone else do a panic check, and they're already panicking, and then they get a panic result that makes everyone else do another panic check, and it raises everybody's stress by 1, and then they get a result that everyone else's stress goes up by 1, and then they do another panic check, and it just goes on and escalates like that. Panic. And, you know, Holroyd ends up basically left behind. So he's completed his agenda. He's holding some xenomorphs back. They're all chasing them to the ship. A couple of people went catatonic, which is the worst possible panic state you can get to. So they're being dragged away. The guy that they'd rescued from Billy's bar, Wes, manages to grab one, of course. So because they've freed him, he's now useful to them. He can now drag one of the catatonic players. They get to the ship. They've still got the motion tracker going. They check on the motion tracker as they get to the ship. They can hear bleeps. There's movement inside the ship. They don't know what's going on. Obviously, the doc's not alive to tell them, but the doc did give them some clues before by showing them the the cold spray devices that are supposed to keep the eggs sedated, but where the scientists aren't there to do that, the eggs have kind of hatched against the scientists in there, and it's really... Basically, the ship is full of face huggers, and there's one for every player. So the face huggers jump out as they, because the players didn't basically arm themselves already or set up Overwatch or anything like that. They just open the ship. Someone opens the ship. And the face huggers pour out. And all the people that are catatonic immediately get attached, because that's how the face huggers work. If they've got a target that's basically immobile in some way, they will instantly clamp on. You don't roll for any of that. They just go straight on. It's an immediate instinctive ability of theirs. For everyone else, they tried to fight it. It's pretty much the one guy left. He starts having to go at it with his flamer because he's seeing everybody with the face huggers attached, and they start flaming the rest of the group. And he's got a face hugger basically on his leg. He runs onto the ship, manages to melee kill it himself, and it goes down and does that sort of spidery thing that they do when they hit the floor. That sort of grrr, and then stops. And he's like, okay, yeah, all right, I've survived. I'm going to take off with the ship, the one survivor, Morgan Hirsch, the one survivor. So he then takes off in the graph. And, we get this whole, you get to do the end log thing. So he does his end log thing. He gets to narrate the ending himself and come up with something suitable. But of course, the face hugger rolled the feigned death result. And what that means is that it will rise again. And so the way I likened it was, as he's doing his video log, I was like, yes, this is Morgan Hirsch, the last survivor of Hadley's Hope. I'm going to take this ship off and go into stasis to try and hope someone finds me and this kind of thing. And in the background, I explained to the players that there's this little face hugger, this thing crawling up the wall behind them. I kind of imagined, that little moment where it's like in the video and it's kind of like gives you the middle finger. It's not really doing that, but it's the way my mind works. That's quite funny. The idea that it might be doing that. But of course, Morgan Hirsch ends up with his stasis pod breached by some sort of acid, and he ends up chest bursted. So he didn't really survive either. And that's the ending for Hope's Last Day. It feels suitably alien, doesn't it? There it is. But not as bad as Alien 3, which basically killed everyone in the next movie just from exposition. We there's a reason for this. It feigned death. He didn't go back to check it, that it was gone. Well, I'll see you at the next one. Alien is freaking crazy.